Hello once again, everybody, and welcome back to Soccer's Overtime, your weekly look inside the San Diego Soccers and the Major Arena Soccer League, coming to you live on Twitch with Tony Sanchez. I'm Greg Elston. We are back with you for Season 6, Episode 4 of our little program. We are 3 days away from the kickoff of the MASL season. We are 9 days away from the kickoff of the San Diego Soccers season, and we are looking forward to talking about it all with you coming up over the next hour or so. Mr. Sanchez, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well. I got involved with some of the preseason duties, I guess, because the season really feels like it's coming around the corner, and really excited for this season coming up. And oh man, I saw some stuff that I'm really excited for.
We're going to be showing it to everybody tonight on this evening's show. We are 1 week closer to opening night. By the way, my instant math was terrible. We're 3 days away from opening night, 5 days away from Sunday, which means we're 12 days away from the Soccers season opener. And I want those extra 3 days to prepare, trust me. So I don't want to shortchange myself or anybody else. But we've got plenty to show and tell, including the new uniforms for 2023-2024. If you weren't at our season ticket member party, you will see them tonight. We said it, season starts in 3 days. We're going to look at the opening slate of games, and we're going to offer our yearly premature predictions for how the league will sort out division by division. Don't hold us to it, but we will still do it. And this week's guest at the bottom of the hour, Brian Farber. He will join us live, and he will have a special announcement surrounding our first match, as well as give us some insight into the design of this year's uniforms from Flight. It's all coming up on Soccer's Overtime. We say a very special welcome to everybody joining us live on Twitch. Thank you so much for your support. Twitch.tv/San Diego Soccers. Make sure to click the follow button so that you'll be notified every time we go live. But hey, if you're watching on YouTube, we are equally happy to have you here for the next day audience. Click like on the video, click subscribe on the channel, and get notified every time we put up a new show. Hey, if you're an audio listener, we ain't mad at you. Happy to be inside your earbuds for today's audio presentation as well. Okay, Tony, here we go. It was a very busy week last week. Not busy in terms of stuff that fans are going to chew on. It's stuff for behind the scenes. We had our photo day. We had everybody out at the Lion's Head studio and the Calafino impromptu studios on Wednesday, bright and early. Recorded our new video elements, things that you will see on the video board when the year comes up, player animations, goal celebrations, new rounds of categories, a new contest where we'll ask fans to beat a soccer in their longest goal chant.
Ooh, I like that.
You would have won easy, Tony. I mean, I've heard you do it in real time in competition, so to speak. So you would have been a ringer in there. I will say that one of the kids that recorded that, no one is going to beat. And the other 5 are probably pretty easy marks. So I do feel bad for the one person who's going to catch the 40-second goal call. But one person went all out on our team. But you were there. You got a chance to get yourself photographed as well, Tony. Your thoughts on what you saw without revealing too much?
No, absolutely. I mean, it was a really it's a really nice drive sometimes to go up north and in traffic to explore all of San Diego in a way. But I really like going over to the I guess the pageantry of it, right? Like, this is the setup for a lot of the things that are going to be rolling out throughout the year. I saw a couple of vignettes getting shot that I'm really excited for. And just overall, I mean, there's only so much you can do with this mug. So thank the wonderful artists with the cameras that'll somehow make this printable on something. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't gotten any proofs. Maybe I owe some people some equipment, but overall, and we'll get to it a little bit later, as far as some of the uniforms are absolutely stellar. There's one in particular, but that's literally all I can say. There's one in particular. and we'll definitely get to that when the time comes. But really cool to see a lot of familiar faces, players coming back. I mean, a little bit behind the scenes is just Drew Ruggles just looks so natural. He just looks so happy. We had him on
Yeah.
last week, and it's just fitting like a glove. And it's really interesting to see him just interact with the players already. He was hanging out with Boris, and overall, just really great to see the players just coming in, mingling, and having that vibe already, even though the season hasn't started yet.
Agreed. It's been a blast to be around the team. Training has been sharp. I was there yesterday for another, edition of training at Bradley Park. Most weekday mornings, 8 a.m. at Bradley Park in San Marcos. I saw a couple of fans get out there. Awesome Space Monkey, that's his handle. I saw got out there this week as well. So it is open to the public if you do want to drop by. Of course, you got to be available on a weekday morning, which not everybody is, and available to drive to San Marcos. Nonetheless, it's been good to see the guys put through their paces. Anne-Marie Alf back from Olympus Performance Movement, putting everybody through the paces on Monday. Resistance band running, all of this stuff. It's always fun to see. I think if you went out to soccer's training camp, the one thing that might stand out if you had a very discerning eye is that the Sockers don't have a ton of depth right now. And what I mean by that is 1 to 16, I think the Sockers will put their team against anybody in the league. So when we talk about depth in terms of, the bottom of the roster, it's fine. The question is what happens if somebody gets hurt, or more accurately, what happens when somebody gets hurt, because somebody gets hurt every single year. It's part of sports. And what was interesting to me this week, Tony, is to see a handful of players who were at the Sockers Combine a couple of weeks ago, and including the Sockers first round draft pick as well, getting an opportunity to be at training. And these are players who are not signed. And I have a famous attitude of when we sign you, I'll learn your name. So until then, you're a nice practice player, and we'll find out. Kay Vibbert in the chat mentions Eddie Velez is a player who has not announced his retirement. He has been battling back from a series of injuries that pretty much held him out all of last year, but he's looking to return to training. Brian Farber at training this week. Brian will be a guest on the show. No spoilers. We'll talk to Brian a little bit later, but I'm just kind of curious. It's an unanswerable question. I'll ask it. I'm not expecting you to answer it, Tony, but I'm just curious if and when something happens, will our Soccer's Operation Brain Trust be comfortable with turning to a combine player to be that 16th or 15th guy, or 15th and 16th guy if there's a couple injuries? Or is the organization going to look outside and try to find an MASL veteran, somebody who's unsigned, somebody who's on the bottom of another roster? It's just something I think we're going to have to keep an eye on, because I feel like in previous years, we always said 1 to 20, the Sockers were set. And I'm really glad to see some of those guys, whether it was an Andy Reyes or a Jason Payne, Irvin Mojica, guys who were kind of in that 16 to 20 range for the club to get slots on other clubs' rosters, but does leave the depth a little bit shaky for San Diego.
Yeah, and especially with a veteran squad, right? Like, this is one of the few sports where maybe the veteran aspect isn't necessarily that impactful, but it is in terms of when and how you need to utilize the talents of the players that we have. You can't really run Craig Childs out there for an entire game. You're going to run him to the ground. Yeah, you're going to get some games that he's going to be incredibly explosive. He's going to be doing things that young Craig Childs would wish he'd be able to do athletically, but at the same time, it's kind of concerning too. I have to agree on there, because these teams have gotten stronger. And yes, the San Diego Sockers have that chemistry, have it down. But if there is an injury and you do look outside, that's going to be something to look for, because the philosophy, the way that the Sockers play, there's a certain style in a way that you see, soccer play. The most beautiful iteration of indoor soccer, fútbol rápido, is here in San Diego, in my humble opinion. But is that going to be a situation where you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and it's just not going to work? And at what time does this happen? And again, we wish health for every single player, but just thinking about it and the depth that there is maybe on defense in the midfield is one thing. But I look up top, and what happens if knock on wood, but say Tavoy gets a knock here and there. That's an area where already with the squad that you have, depth is not ideal, perhaps, and you just let, like you said, Payne, Mojica go where they could have gotten some time here. But we'll see. The talent that is here locally, if that's going to be something that's going to be able to fit the system a little bit better, maybe that's the way to go. But I mean, don't scare me, Craig. The season hasn't started.
That's me. We've spent 3 weeks talking about how great everybody is, and and every player on the top of the team. I've just been through the wars too many times. Things start going. Someone gets kicked. Someone gets a red card. Someone sprains an ankle. Hurts their shoulder because they get knocked to the turf. There's a million ways to get hurt. I love Kay Vibbert saying loyal roster's still in town. Yeah. Hey, Guido, mi buen amigo. Are you available?
Actively trying to recruit some players, and I mean some familiar names like Elijah Martin, Tumi Moshabani gave me the maybe, but obviously they're still in their U.S. time period right now. But never say never. You never know.
Cam Riley, I know Cam Riley's around.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told me that they were inviting him to the game on Sunday. I'm like, hey, grab a bib. Come down and warm up. But I mean, we even heard Craig say it in his interview on last week's show that we played and then put on social later in the week. Like, it's quality over quantity right now for the Sockers. And that's great. It's terrific. They've got as good a roster as I've ever seen them have. Just that question is interesting to me. What happens when, not if, what happens when someone gets a nick? Who's going to be next up? And with less depth, are the guys who are in training camp now there to win a job as a reserve, or would the team look somewhere else? Can I bend Phil and Cheeky's ear to get my guy Horacio from the challenge to season 39 to come back and be that top depth? I mean, I always wanted him to get a game last year. He never got a game. He was there. He was training. He was watching. He was now he just looks beautiful on television. He's dating Nerese now. If you watch MTV, I mean, it's like power couple. It's ridiculous, but he's probably got no time for us. But nonetheless, okay. We've got some housekeeping notes. I do want to mention one roster note that we did talk about at the season ticket member party as well. I think we maybe kind of alluded to it in previous shows, but Juan Manuel Rojo is not on the Sockers roster right now. And when you look in the MASL soccer website, it can be deceiving because Craig Childs isn't on the Sockers roster right now.
Oh,
no. Yeah. Our buddy Hector Trujillo texted me earlier today, like, has Childs retired? I'm like, no. Xavier Snare Williams isn't on the website right now, but he's going to be on the team. So I don't know what that is. I literally, I don't know. Is that a thing where they haven't turned in his, paperwork to the league or whatever? There's some reason he's not there, but Craig Childs is training. Craig is on the team. Like, don't worry about that. Nonetheless, Juan Manuel Rojo is not on the roster too, but it is not looking good for Juan Manuel Rojo to be on the team this year. And the best way I can just talk about it is we're back in that visa town again. And again, I'm trying to be careful of everybody's rights, and I'm kind of a third party to all of this, but my understanding is there was a little bit of an opportunity for little Rojo to come up and work on it, and there was a decision made to stay down, and then a deadline passed. So I don't think you're going to see Juan Manuel Rojo on a different roster this year. I don't think you're going to see him on our roster this year. He wasn't at Photo Day. He wasn't part of our preseason stuff. He has been in the past. So, hey, that's a big loss. There's no question about it. I think he's the fastest or one of the fastest defenders in the league. He's half of the TJ counter. And while Drew Ruggles is here and we've got easily the depth to paper over this. We knew that a starter on defense would have to sit if the whole roster was available.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, it's not great.
Yeah, it's the unique realities of a MASL league that really highly depends on talent del otro lado de la frontera, on the other side, and it's the reality that a lot of people face here, even if it's not MASL professional indoor soccer. It's just it's a part of life, and that's going to be somewhere where it's going to be heavily missed. That left flank is going to be incredibly missing some highlights this year, but hopefully, like I said, the depth with Ruggles and everybody else will suffice to cover that talent.
Yeah, hopefully we wish him the very best. I've got time for Rojo. Let's just put it that way. Like, I think he's a good player in this league. I think his brother's a good player in this league. And I wish they were there. And I hope that they're not against us.
Yeah.
And Ismail is. I mean, he's already in Monterrey, but that's the other side. So, don't have to worry about that till the final. But for little Rojo, wish him the best. Hope we'll see him later in the year. It is what it is. Couple of housekeeping notes. First off, big ups to everybody who showed up to the season ticket member party on Sunday up at the Calafino Lounge in Carlsbad. It was great to see our season ticket member family. It was great to reconnect with so many different people. Tony showing now on our video stream here some of the pictures from the day. I'll tell you one thing, which was pretty funny. You can see there's this big tent outside Calafino where Ezra and Sonora and Spencer were checking everybody in. That was from a quinceañera the night before.
I love that.
At Calafino. And like, it just so happened that it was like there. And so we set it back up. And so like people walked in and there's like chandeliers.
Oh.
all this fancy stuff, but the colors were like purple and green. It was almost like St. Louis ambush colors, so it was a little bit off on that. Nonetheless, it was fun. Big ups to One Kitchen Collaborative, who is our new caterer for this year up in Oceanside. Just had some incredible apps for everybody. The shrimp cocktail there, huge hit. Great crowd that showed up. Got bigger as the hours went on into the afternoon. Just an absolute blast. We love our season ticket member family, and I said it. I mean, this is the core constituency that's keeping the flame alive of what the Sockers mean to the community. As you see, the players were there. It's a great picture of Drew, who was there with his lovely wife Tristan, their two kids. It was tremendous to see them and see how they're, we had been asking about making that switch from Florida over to California. So it's great to see that adjustment is happening and going really well. And by the time we were ready to get going at 1:30, as you can see, we had a packed house. We had an absolutely packed house for our presentation where we got to talk to the players, etc. You see the gift for season ticket members this year, a lovely notebook kind of thing that I use on a day-to-day basis at work.
Yep.
Ton of fun for the season ticket member party. Big perk. Oh, wait. I was there too.
Oh, who's that guy?
Things turned. Things took a turn at one point. I started speaking. Everyone was bored with that. Then Tyler came up from Visit Oceanside, and that was terrific. It was great to hear from him and to start to get, there's Crystal from One Kitchen Collaborative, and wonderful to find out everything. Stephanie Polonia now in charge of ticketing for Front Wave Arena, ex of the Loyal. Wonderful to have her as a part of the family. And there's Spencer and Sonora, our ticket gurus. How about it? Look, we got video, we got everything out. Gabriel Costa there, got to introduce some of the newest San Diego Sockers. So an absolute blast had by everybody. Great time. We do it every year. Become a member of our season ticket member family. It's something that you can do. It's the least expensive season ticket in town. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Growlers are less expensive. I don't know. But for soccer, it's the least expensive season ticket in town for sure. And we have a great time all the time. Oh, no. Chip says he didn't make the cut in the picture. Well, look, we couldn't put every picture up, Chip. We got other pictures to show, like the uniforms coming up. Stay
Ooh.
stay tuned. Kay Vibbert asking, the cross-border scarf, is it something that will be available at the merch booth? Yes, it is. Yes, it was actually one good thing we had. We revealed our uniforms to our fans, and then they were immediately available for sale for the fans there, and season ticket members get a discount as well. So, okay, real quick, just a couple other notes, and then we're going to get to the uniforms, and then we're going to get to Brian Farber. Soccer's golf tournament, annual charity golf classic, coming up Friday, December 1st. 2 Fridays from now. Not this Friday, but the next Friday. Benefiting Reginald J. Phoenix, the RJP Scholarship Fund. It's at Mount Woodson. My understanding, our golf guru, John Green, told me on Monday that we currently have only 9 foursomes remaining available. And I will tell you right now, I'm planning to have a Padres hot tub foursome that claims one of those.
Ooh.
So think of it more like 8 foursomes available. It's an incredible day out at Mount Woodson. Starts at 7:30 with sign up. We've always got the Bloody Mary bar, the breakfast burritos, putting contest, incredible merch. There's really a ton of value with our tournament. And then it tees off at 9 o'clock for a typical scramble, and we'll be out of there with lunch around 2 o'clock, and awarding the prizes, the raffle, and of course the tournament champion. Going to be a lot of fun. Go to stsoccers.com/golf and you can sign up your foursome. If you want to, send me a little message. I might be able to get you a little bit of a discount, a little bit of a Soccers overtime discount to put a foursome in. So you know how to find me. Send me a message if you want, and I will take care of that for you.
Excellent.
We last week announced the Soccer Supporter Summit. I want to just mention it again. It is going to be on December 3rd at our home opener. It is open to anybody who is in a soccer supporter group right now. That's the locals, that's Chavos de San Diego, or the Frontera Ultras, the San Diego Riptide, San Diego Sirens. We've been in touch with every one of these groups. We've given them our sign-up sheet. We're giving free tickets to the match to supporters specifically, and we're starting things off 90 minutes early with a Soccer Supporters Summit. The goal is to get everybody together. It's just to get everybody together, get all of these groups together. There's so many reasons to have synergy in the soccer supporter community. We're going to try and help continue that. I think there's a lot of folks, great folks in leadership in all of these groups who have common goals. I'm not saying anyone's at loggerheads or anything, but just saying we'd like to do our small part to keep everyone together, and also to, humbly offer that with this American outdoor schedule of March to November and the American indoor schedule of essentially December through March, there's a lot of reasons that you can be a 12-month-a-year supporter and support indoor without giving up any of what you want to support, whether it's the Wave or San Diego FC in the future. Obviously, supporting the Loyal now. I mean, it's tough because there's no team. I was there Saturday when the office was literally cleaned out. I tried to buy Stephanie Polonia's desk.
The Rising one?
Yeah, exactly. For the monitor that she used to use, it was all available. So that's coming up Sunday. Everybody in the various Discords of the various groups has the Google link to sign up. And I encourage everyone, if you looked at this and you said, oh, that's cool, well, please sign up. Go ahead, put your name on the sheet. Give us the opportunity to fulfill those tickets early, and we can't wait to see you Sunday, December 3rd. Last housekeeping note. I'm really excited about this. Happy to announce that this year's San Diego Soccer's home broadcasts, which will involve myself and Tony and our great TVX video crew and Melissa May as our sideline reporter. But I am thrilled to announce that Alejandro Chiva Villaseñor is joining the club as well as our chat correspondent for all of our broadcasts, all the ones he can make. Chief is a very, very busy man. He's got a very, very busy schedule. He has indicated he probably can't make all 12 matches, but we hope to have him there as much as possible. And when he's there, he's going to fulfill what is, for me, a very important role, which is to handle the chat. on Twitch
handle
during the match. And we'll be going to him. We'll be going to him multiple times, 4-6 times per broadcast to find out what are people saying in the chat, what's going on, what's the tenor, what's the mood, what are the burning questions that are being asked of the broadcast. And I'm really looking forward to that. As you know, Tony, I'm just so bummed that we don't have the Spanish language broadcast back this year. I wish they were there. You guys were so good on those broadcasts, but to have the opportunity to have both of you involved one way and another makes me very happy.
No, I mean, it's a great opportunity to be involved. Now speaking for myself in this role, but it's really good to have the partner who I've really built this platform and being that allowed us to even be considered for the San Diego Soccer's anything. I'll just say anything. The fact that we were allowed to be on a mic, English or Spanish, was ludicrous at some point. But are you going to welcome some of the comments that I find? Because during the Spanish one, I kind of went back and forth, and they're not all positive, Craig. They're not very soccer's friendly. I found out.
That's what Chiva's for. See, that's the Chiva's that lovely. He's the cooling saucer. As they often describe the Senate as the cooling saucer of the government. He's the cooling saucer of the broadcast, because you'll have the opportunity if 17 people in a row, right, Craig, you stink, to just be like, wow, things are pretty choppy in the chat right now, Craig. You can give it to me in a much more palatable way, or I'm not like just getting mad in the middle of the broadcast. So
this says Tony stinks. Oh, okay. All right, Chiva,
yeah.
thank you.
Says what? This says what? Look, I love our league. You won't find any major professional sports league that would demand of their broadcasters that while they are announcing the games, that they keep an eye on an internet chat to see what anybody who has an account and signs in has to say, and to center that commentary as if it were equal to what's going on in the game itself. Philosophically, maybe I'm making my point as to how I feel about it, but I think Chiva is going to be terrific for this, and he's going to help us out a lot. So, and Marlicia's right. I mean, it's the nature of our games. Mm-hmm. The fans of the home team are at the game for the most part. Sure, there's out of town, out of state, out of country fans who are always going to tune in. But for the most part, the home fans are at the game. So the broadcast, and us home announcers understand this, the home broadcast is mostly watched by the away team. And hey, when we were doing the final this year, Tony, the English broadcast was mostly watched by the Baltimore fans. So when Chihuahua started winning and we were praising the Savage, the Baltimore fans just turned on us at some point in the third quarter of game 2 and then just started piling on horribly. And it's like, oh, I'm supposed to read this? I'm supposed to read this and do my job? No. So thank you, Chiva. Thank you, League. I don't know why I'm thanking the league. Thank you, League, for existing. Thank you, Chiva, for helping solve problems. And I'm just psyched for everybody that we're going to have what I hope and know will be, once again, a top flight broadcast in MASL. All right. I know we've got our guest, Brian Farber, standing by and probably ready to rumble. And you know what? Seeing as he is one of the co-creators of these beautiful kits, let's just bring on Brian and let's talk about the kits with Brian, the legendary San Diego Soccer, a 5-time champion with San Diego, a 6-time champion overall because he won a championship in Stockton as well, and a dear friend for many years. There he is. And look, he's always handsome. His hair always looks good. Like I just feel better and worse at the same time. Every time I bring on Brian, I'm like, I'm so happy he looks good. I'll never look as good as he does. Always a little jealous. Brian! Oh, he's on. He's live. Hey, Brian. Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, I wanted to get you on right on time. I got to pull the chain a little bit. Before we get into Brian Farber stuff and Brian Farber news, the big thing we've got left to do on the show is to reveal the uniforms. And I just thought, hey, you're a big part of Flight. Let's just do this together and we can talk through kind of the design process and the thought process as well. So for everyone who wasn't at season ticket member party, here we go. Time for the breaking news, the big reveal. And Tony, let's start with the home kit. Let's start with the 2023-2024 home blues for the final season at the Grand Old Arena. Okay, there's Craig Childs in the kit. Now, Brian, I think the biggest thing that everyone sees right away with this home kit is a touch of gold. There's a touch of gold in this. The yellow's gone gold here.
I'm fortunate enough to be in the conversations around the uniforms and trusting, I guess, style or whatever it is, my attention to detail. So this year, you're going to see a lot of gold from the uniform kits that were revealed the other day. And I think it's kind of interesting and cool. And then, it's a little bit different than the soccer's traditional yellow, but I think that I think that the club is going to embrace it. I think also in the 70s, 80s, 90s, it was really challenging to probably make something actually gold. And even though they may have been going for a gold at times, they got a mustard yellow. So now you can actually do certain things with uniforms and the gold looks sharp. So on the blue, I think the gold looks great. And then on the next one you're going to show in a second, I think it looks amazing.
And the one other thing to note there as well, and it's you see it a lot more in detail when you get up close, but there's a little bit of, I don't know if it's a wave, almost a cresting wave type pattern sublimated underneath there. It's subtle, but when you get up close, I think it's very attractive.
I actually haven't even seen it in person other than from a distance when Craig was wearing it. So I wasn't close enough to actually see the design. I haven't touched one, felt one, or worn one. But from what I understand, the team over at Flight has some amazing designers and team, and they made some really cool stuff. And I think that it always makes the soccer stand out as unique on the field.
Yeah, you can kind of see it. Tony zoomed in a little bit, so you can sort of see the uplift, the little waves. And to me, in my mind, it's just an homage to the great San Diego Wave FC. So I appreciate that. All right, let's go to the road kit because this is a reversal of our third kit from last year, one of the most popular kits in San Diego soccer's history. And Brian, I think a lot of people are liking kind of seeing the white version of the Aztec calendar pattern that we saw last year.
Yeah, I think that you were a big part of this design side of conversation early last year with some thoughts of tying it back to the heritage of and the culture of Tijuana and our players that are, the cross-border kit, as it was called. I think that the white and gold looks unbelievable. When I was in the meeting with the team, I got to see it firsthand on samples, and there was a couple different variables or slight changes of this version, and you got to see it and how much detail that they put into it. For me, this was the one that I was like, oh, I want that one. Like, I want to wear that one right now. So it's really, really cool to see, and I think the fans will really appreciate it.
And Marlisha makes a great point. It's going to be tremendous for team autographs as well. The white away. I understand, not to give away too many house secrets, but I believe while that is our road kit, we may be wearing it at least once at home, maybe very early on at home to kind of just jumpstart La Cultura around this kit. But, you give me a little credit, Brian, but if you say something like that, I just have to shout out Jerry Jimenez.
Yeah.
Big J. Yeah. So integral in the design of the cross-border kit, along with Adrian from Chavos, along with Ezra, yourself, Chuck, everybody involved at Flight. Collaborative effort to be sure, but I got to give a tip of the cap to Big J for what he did as well. So there you have home. There you have road. And when we get to keeper, this is something we were talking about even last year, man. So I think Brian is going to be really psyched to be wearing kind of a red, green, and white. This is where the cross-border gets Sur de la Frontera just a little bit. As you can see, there's a green version of this and there's a red version of this, Brian, for the goalkeeper kit. But essentially, it's just a different color version, even down to the trapezoidal pattern on the side. Ooh, I just like how that looks. The red and the gold work together very well, my friend.
Yeah, I think that Boris had a big part to play in this on his requests from last year. Boris knows what he likes, and I think he was heard. So he should be pretty pleased with the uniforms he's got. I did get to see it when he walked by me at the event the other night, and it's pretty sharp for sure. I think that in general, these three kits are very unique to this club, obviously, and it's really cool to see them all come together as they go through sampling to the final product.
And the last thing I guess we'll say about this is there is still a third kit to be revealed later in the year.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to make some news.
I have seen it, and I think it's going to be epic.
I agree. And there you kind of see the layout of everything that was available. There's the green keeper kit, there's the red keeper kit, the white away, the blue home, and the cross-border scarf that I was wearing at the season ticket member party as well. All are going to be available at the merchandise stand, starting with the home opener. Season ticket members got a chance to purchase on Sunday at the event. And Gabe's asking, beyond the Star Wars kit, there's a third kit? Yes, Gabe, there's going to be 3 kits plus a Star Wars kit plus a military kit this year once again. So Sockers are going to be beautifully adorned in multiple looks all year. And we haven't even talked, Brian, about Boris's special goalkeeper
Oh
kit.
my God. I got to see that, and that's all I can say. I got to see it, and I can't wait for everybody else to see it. That's period. I really enjoyed that one.
So I was there for the conception of the idea. Is that Boris plays pickleball. I don't know if anybody knows how good Boris is at pickleball. He's incredible. And Boris has been playing pickleball with the team over at Flight, my friend Chuck. And they were talking about why can't we do something fun, unique, cool? And Chuck's like, we can, let's do it. And so I think it turned into Boris kind of came up with the idea and the thought process, and Chuck and his designing team and team over that Flight made it happen. And I think when people see it, they're going to I think they're going to have a hard time choosing which one to purchase.
I agree. I think it's amazing. I think it'll be slightly polarizing. And I very much look forward. I like that we have a couple cards left in our pocket to hold and to reveal a little bit later. Before we get off of Flight, Brian, just your thoughts now as you've been involved for a couple of years on the company, its growth, where it's heading overall, as of course the Soccer's official apparel manufacturer, but you're doing so much more as well.
Yeah, my friend Chuck is the president of the company, and it's kind of funny how it all worked out. But he's always trusted my opinion, so I get to kind of give it and step aside and kind of watch the details like this come to life. So it's pretty cool to watch. It's fun because Phil is an investor in the company and a partner in it, and he essentially helped build this and get partners on board, and the MASL deal with the ball and all this stuff that Phil does is it all kind of comes together. It's fun. It's like I get to see it all in ideation and turn it into a final project. And so I send everybody over to those guys, and they have youth clubs and they have soccer camp business, and they make amazing product from the soccer ball to grip socks and more. So what they're doing over there is pretty fun, and I get to kind of always give my soccer opinion, which maybe it's not always wanted, but I feel like I bring an added value. I've been in the industry, right, with Puma. I used to be in charge of all Puma accessories, socks, balls, goalkeeping gloves, bags, a little bit of everything, honestly. And so I was in charge of every single soccer ball that was sold in the United States from Puma for 2 seasons. And I learned a lot. And so when my friend now runs a company in that space, I give him as much insight as I know.
Incredible stuff, Brian. Now, turning from the wonderful world of sports apparel back to the world of indoor soccer. Saw you at training this week. You're back. 2023-24 season opener coming up 12 days away, Sunday, December 3rd. Let everybody know officially, what is your status for the 2023-24 season?
Well, I saw some comments earlier saying that I haven't technically retired, but I retired last year, and it was kind of a known thing that I was retired. It was my final season. It is a very difficult thing for somebody to commit to the roster, to be in practice every day, to put full effort as I do into practices and traveling. And I have 3 kids now. I have a 7-month-old, I have a 6-year-old, and I have an 11-year-old. My wife is a full-time employee of a Califino, and she's got a big role over there. And so she doesn't take liberties. She comes home. She just walked in the door. So my kids have been entertaining themselves in the other room by themselves for the start of this interview. So all that being said, to maintain a level of fitness and to always be ready to say, yes, let's go to Harrisburg and Baltimore for 4 days in January. Like, it's an interesting thing. While I also run a company called BlazePod, and it's the U.S. business that is underneath me, U.S., Canada, and Mexico, technically speaking, North America. And I have a team, and I have marketing and sales and education, and it's a lot of work. And so I've been doing this throughout my career from Puma. Then I built skills to the #1 soccer training brand in the world for a period of time before I departed there to come to BlazePod. So I'm in an interesting spot. I think a lot of players stay playing because they're not sure what to do next or when to transition into coaching. And it just makes sense to keep playing. But for me, I have way too many things going on in my life to continue to prioritize everything. And I'm not trying to take away anything about how much I love the club and the guys and the players and the team, the staff. It's family. Phil is family. Cheeky is family, right? Charles is one of my best friends. Like, he told me not to retire again this morning. So it's not about not being able to play. It's just simply about, I have to prioritize certain things and something has to go. And it feels like this has to be one.
Yeah, no, that's something. Again, congratulations on a fantastic career, because obviously you gave the San Diego Sockers fans a lot of joy. I mean, even up to a couple of months ago, you're putting your body on the line, going helicopter airborne for the sake of a beautiful goal, and those are the memories that really are going to stick to the people. But was this kind of like a long process in the decision to retire? Or is this something that triggered it, or how long has this kind of been ruminating your mind?
That's a good question. No, you never really think about retiring until you can't play anymore. I think I always told myself, when I'm not impactful, then I'll be done. I don't know when that's actually going to come, because I feel like I will be impactful for us being probably the best team in the league and any other team out there for a number of years to come, even at my age, because I'm still fast. I'm still quick. I know the game and I have a lot to offer, but I just have always been telling my wife, one more year. And that's gone on for like 6 years. Keep in mind, if I didn't get hurt in Vegas that night in that rinky-dink little place that we had to play our semifinal, my name might have been hung up in the rafters, along with what's going to eventually be Craig's, and that happened to me. And it took away 3 full seasons of like healthy me in my prime. That was hard. And then I got back and I have a full-time job and I have a family I'm creating and working on and trying to build my career outside of soccer. And then I get that foot injury in preseason while I was preparing for like my final run. I was actually supposed to retire 2 years ago, but my foot injury was so bad that I could not possibly make that my last year. So it has kind of dragged on. I'm ready for it. I might say otherwise in a couple of weeks, but it's been planned for a while. It's time, I think. And I had a lot of great conversations the other night at the event with season ticket holders that I've known for 10 years. And it's a little emotional, but it's kind of fun. And how many people come up and say, you've been my favorite player for how long? I love to hear that, but it's just too much.
So just to be extremely clear, Brian will be in the lineup for the season opener, a farewell game, a chance for the fans to come out and scream your name one more time, maybe multiple times every shift that you come out and play, and for the club to honor you as well. And then Brian Farber is hanging it up, and your decision-making is extremely sound, very rational. You are making your wife extremely happy. And I understand all of that. So having said all of that, you know you're going to play at least 2 more games beyond opening night this year, right? You understand that, right?
I don't know.
You
I don't know about that. That is not in the agreement.
Yeah,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And then we're going to go to Texas, and someone's going to sprain their ankle, and someone else is going to get turf toe, and do. And the next thing you know, the bat signal, the Farb signal, is going to be reflected off the clouds in North County, and there will be Farber. I saw what happened with Zay's retirement too, brother. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. I know. Trust me, like all these things weighed in the back of my brain all last year, and whether I should or shouldn't. But honestly, I've had amazing support from the family side, and then from my work. My boss lives in Europe. He's not like in my office with me every day. There's a ton of trust, and letting me continue to play last year. Even though I wasn't going to play last year. And then, preparing for this season, it's a no-brainer. He's like, yes, obviously go train the next 2 weeks and go enjoy this moment. You've earned it. But, I have a real responsibility to the business to drive millions of dollars in sales. And I don't want to keep taking that for granted either.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, I have to agree with Craig. That's very sound logic, and you're going to be very happy with whatever decision you make. But you mentioned you were at training, you were preparing for this season. So you know what's out there right now. You know what's cooking at training so far. What do you see in the Socceroos coming up for the 2023-2024 season already?
I mean, we look good. Take the core. Take the team that we had last year that we unlucky to not make it to the final. Tough place to play, 1 goal difference in Chihuahua, and then come home, and it was devastating how it ended. And it could have totally gone our way. We would have been in the final. I think we get to the final, we take it. But we have that core group back, and now we've added 2 unbelievable players from around the league. Our fortune to pick up Costa, who we know very well, and to be fair, he was the most dynamic player that we faced throughout the year, to the point where I was like, I would talk to him early on in the season. I watched him play, and I was like, damn, this dude's the real deal. And I even spoke to him after the game, like, hey, man, very fun for me to watch. The future is like in good hands, watching these up and coming players bring it. Because I've been in the league since 2005. I've seen a lot. I've seen it come. I've seen it go. I've seen some people stay. I've seen them adjust as they got older. He's unbelievable. And now he's wearing the Soccer's crest. For that to happen was like, couldn't believe it happened, but it did. And so that's amazing for us. He's blending in very well with the rest of the midfield. I think he even kissed Brendan today in practice, because they went head to head. It's a joke, but they were going at each other, and it's bringing this level of strength in the midfield to challenge each other, right? Like, we're all there to win, and we're training hard. But they hit heads, and they both had to sit out of practice a little bit today. But I joke about the kids. But then you have Ruggles, right? And now you bring in multiple things here. You bring in a defender. You bring in a big body. You bring in a very composed player going forward out of the back. He's left-footed. We have not had a left-footed free kick option in a couple of seasons to go and rely on. And I've seen him for years. I played with him in Australia in the Mini World Cup. I've got to know him as a human being. He's a great dude. He's fitting in perfectly. So the team just got stronger with the addition of those 2 players. Rojo's situation is very unfortunate. We know what he brings. So that's, I think, the one loss that is really clear. But now you even have a healthy Leo again. The team is deep. So, not deep in terms of deep depth and lots of players, but strength-wise, I would say that our squad is very, very good and ready. Pino hasn't even shown up yet, and he's going to bring it. So it's exciting for me to watch. And I get to play in the first game with this team, and that means that if they win the championship, I get a ring. And so I'm rooting for them.
Absolutely. And 2 or 3 games later in the year. So final season at Pechanga Arena, final season for Brian Farber, but final season at Pechanga Arena for the San Diego Sockers. 12 of the 16 championships have been won there. Of course, in 2021, the Sockers had no home. So that one's our vagabond season championship, 3 at Del Mar Arena and 12 at the Sports Arena. When you think about what that building has meant to San Diego sports, and then within that, what the Sockers have meant to that building, what are your feelings thinking about one more chance for the Sockers to play there?
Yeah, I think it's I think the two are like hand in hand, right? It's synonymous with the success of the Sockers playing in the Sports Arena. And you can change the name by the sponsor, but it's the Sports Arena. And you walk in those doors and you just get the feeling of the legacy of the brand. You look up in the rafters and you see the names and you see the championship banners, and that's intimidating from an outside standpoint. No matter who you are, you come in and you realize you're playing the best, and the building that you just said has been part of 12 championships. It's undeniable, right? So you're walking in the back little area and you're looking around, and people from the opposing teams, they have to have it thrown right in their face, and they see it and they feel it, and the fans bring it. So one more season in the Grand Old Arena, as you'd say, is it's like unfinished business. Let's go out with a bang, and whatever happens in that building, we always have what happened, and let's try to bring in the new building that is ours, always forever going to be ours, for the first time, and really excited to have that transition, but finish strong and go into that with trying to put a new banner up in there. So I think that it's a heavy burden on us to try to finish out with a championship, but that's the way it's deserved.
Cannot agree with you more as a San Diegan. That's a hollow ground there. But like you were mentioning, you've been in the league for a long time. I've been seeing a lot of different evolutions, iterations of this league. Now, removing yourself a little bit from where you were when you came into it, how have you seen the growth of the league and the state of the MASL currently, and where it's been with the expansion of teams, of Savage winning, and the sprinkling of talent across the different divisions as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. The transition of the indoor game since I was in the league in 2005, my first year, it feels like similar, but feels different, right? You have teams like Monterey were there then, and they left a couple of times and come back a couple of times, right? That's just like the way that they do it. It's always great to have more teams south of the border. It just is better for business, in my opinion, especially for San Diego, because we get to play a different style and see a different style. When you go and play teams like Kansas City or St. Louis over the years, like Detroit, it's just a different game. And when you're playing against a team full of really hardworking Mexican players that understand the game and know each other, like front and back, they help each other out. They're always there. It's so fun to beat them when you get to beat them. I remember years ago where we beat Monterey, and we got cheered off the field by the fans. We earned their respect. That doesn't happen in Detroit. It might happen in like a Baltimore potentially, but honestly, I don't know if those fans really care. If they lose, they're not happy about it. I don't think Monterey was happy about it, but they appreciate good play. And this club, creates that dynamic. We have an amazing team, and front to back, from our goalkeeper to our forwards. And when you play teams like Florida that were supposed to beat us a couple of years ago, and we took them down like in the semifinals, those are moments that this league is built upon. And so nothing really changed from the very beginning. Players come and go. Strategies slightly change. Coaches, like amazing coaches, Phil and Tozer, and those guys, speaking about them in the same sentence, they've won championships and they've earned that, right? And I guess the whole league in general continues to grow. You have great players. Like I said, Costa coming last year and making such a splash as a new player. And then Brazilian players that have always been scattered throughout the league, Ricardinho's and Everton's back in the day. But now you have Leo as an example, the pass master himself. So it's very fun for me to watch the sport. I'm definitely going to be a fan after I'm done playing, and maybe even come and teach some of these young guys certain things that they're missing. I'm talking to the players now at practice saying like, hey, you might not know this game, but right there, you got to step and you got to drop or you got to slide. And, I like to teach. It's my style. And if these players are going to try to be impactful for this team and roster later in the season, they need to start learning.
Yeah, you have a restless mind. You will not be far from this club. You won't be far from the strategy of this club. I won't say any more. But the last thing before we let you go, I've known you for a long time, Brian. I remember when Ari came into the world back in the Del Mar Arena days. I remember when Beckham joined your family. And then now in April, Mila Sophia Farber entered the universe as well. And I'm just curious for yourself and your beautiful wife, Christy, and for all the years that you played man-to-man defense. Now you have to learn the zone. It's 2-on-3. you're outmanned every day for the rest of your life. So how has that adjustment been?
The 3 kids is definitely a game changer. Craig tried to warn me. But it happened. And so we have this amazing little girl. I'm not joking. Just yesterday, she learned how to wave. She's 7 months now. And she's like waving like intentionally. You leave and we say bye, and she like waves, and it's adorable, right? You like every day is different. You take this on. But we also have Ari, who's now 11. She's a responsible little girl, and she is super helpful. And then Beckham is he just turned 6, but he helps as much as he can. And in fact, he just got a haircut today. He got his haircut without me. He came home and he's got my haircut. And I had a double take because I hadn't seen it yet, and made me laugh. So, I have a lot to be thankful for on that side. And it's going to be definitely more of my focus now.
Farbs, your class, you'll always be class. We look forward to honoring you for the first match, and then to just begrudgingly recognize you the 3 to 4 extra games you play this year. And thank you so much. As always, you've been so generous to this show over the years. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Guys, thanks for having me on. I'm happy to do it. And whenever you need a color commentator, you know where I'll be.
Absolutely, my friend. Yeah, well, I will probably sneak you in on a couple of broadcasts this year as well. Brian Farber, thank you so much, my friend. There's Farbs. Man.
What a guy.
What a guy.
That's the representation that you want from a player in San Diego. That's a total package, man.
It was such a special moment when Brian Farber came to this club in 2010. And he was like, kind of like Costa last year was that one guy on another team that you're like, oh my God, we got to deal with this guy. And he's such a pain in the ass. And he's always in the back post and making some leaping header. And he's energy, and he's got passion, and he plays with bite. He plays with grit, and he's fast as hell. And like, what are we going to do with this dude? And when we got Farber, it was just like, okay, it's on. Like the Sockers have Farber. Now it's on. There's not much coincidence that it was very shortly thereafter that we went on a 48-match winning streak to set the all-time U.S. professional sports team record. And he's got 5 championships here, 6 in his career, as we mentioned, and hopefully he'll finish with 6 and 7. And Brian Farber, just the best. Okay, let's get to MASL news and wrap things up. Season starts Friday, my friend. Milwaukee at St. Lou. Empire at Chihuahua. Let's go. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredible start of the season. The teams are already just ready to go. I've been looking across the league, some social medias, and I mean, Chihuahua is really embracing this whole champion thing. They earned, but they are primed and ready to go and to try to repeat. And I have to say that, I'm very excited to keep an eye on how dynamic and how, this league starts developing from early on, and what the Sockers are really going to have to face when they start their season December 3rd.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting this weekend, and we appreciate the Empire Strikers for sallying forth into the breach and being the first first person to jump out of the of the trench and rush across the field here and face the machine guns, because they will take on Friday Chihuahua. They will take on Monterrey on Sunday. They're going to do the Mexico twofer, and that's how Paul Wright's coaching career gets started, with two of the toughest matches that you could possibly play in this league. And you talk about Chihuahua, and we're going to get into kind of our division previews and conference previews. And this is a team that really, save one player, has brought absolutely everybody back. And the one player is Torres, Edgar Gonzalez. He's gone back to Monterrey, and that's not a surprise. That's his hometown. He played in Chihuahua for a couple of years, but Edgar Gonzalez going back to Monterrey just really kind of fleshes out that roster. Another critical player who has gone from Chihuahua to Monterrey is El Sargento. Berna Valdovinos is now in Monterrey, and he is not in Chihuahua. And Ivan Terry Munoz played tremendously in the final when Berna got hurt. And I want to make that clear. And he might be an up-and-coming goalkeeper in this league, but Chihuahua was 0-5 with Ivan Terry Munoz their original year, and then they signed Berna, and then they went 15-1. And last year they won 17 games, and Berna was mostly the goalkeeper. So I think that's very significant. Torres, the number one striker, and Berna, the number one keeper, both migrating from Chihuahua to Monterrey. That's got to have some kind of impact.
Absolutely. And if you saw any of the matchups with Savage and the San Diego Sockers, you would know exactly the impact that Berna Valdovinos has and what type of a player he really is, and commanding a comandante of the back line, and as a shot stopper, incredibly talented, and Torres as well. That was the big question in the going into the finals as well, and into the matchups against San Diego. Will he play? And he ended up being an X factor in a critical time. Munoz also stepped up, so perhaps that earned him the confidence of Chihuahua to be able to part ways a little, having with a little bit more of a safety net, and sending Berna over with Borrego, who is heading Monterrey Flash as well. But I mean, I'm glad, like you said, Empire is going to have that first taste of what Savage has to offer this time around.
Yeah, you bring up Luis Jaime Borrego, and yes, he's back as El Profe in Monterrey, but Everardo Sanchez guided his club to a championship last year. So, he's no slouch. I think both teams are going to be really, really good, but I think from a soccer's centric standpoint, I'd rather face Chihuahua without Berna than Chihuahua with Berna. I'd rather face Chihuahua without Torres than with Torres. So, good news for San Diego there, so to speak. Sunday, we mentioned Empire's at Monterrey. Milwaukee is at Kansas City. So we'll get to see one of the presumptive favorites in the East, Milwaukee. We'll get to see another big-time contender in Kansas City on Sunday. I'm very much looking forward to these matches. Speaking of Empire, goalkeeper Clayson De Lima put a post on his Instagram earlier this week thanking Empire for 5 years and announcing that he would not be back with the Strikers this season. My ear has heard that it's a visa thing for Clayson De Lima, which is very unfortunate. But of course, Chris Toth was a free agent this offseason, and he signed in Tacoma with his buddy Nick Pereira, and is now doing his second tour of duty with the Stars. So Empire doesn't have a keeper, Tony. They don't have a keeper. They've got whoever they drafted in the combine or whoever's shown up at tryout to be their goalkeeper, and they have a game in 3 days. So, yikes.
Yeah, that's an interesting strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off. But if we're not trusting the rosters on the MASL website, because I mean they have somebody, Brandon Gomez, 00s. But again, that could be the player that they drafted, or it's just it's not looking good, because what are you going to do? Are you going to get somebody off the streets? Are you going to go and get somebody off the streets and try to find somebody in Mexico and trying to find some local talent over there? A shot in the dark? Can somebody, an outfielder, play In goal, is it going to be 6th attacker the entire game? I don't know, Craig. That's a very, very just alarming thing. You know, you have these great signings, seemingly rebuilding an empire, and then you have such a glaring hole here with no goalkeeper as of now, and even whoever you're going to bring in, it's a little late to really assimilate themselves into a style, because it's not just throw a goalkeeper there and see what they can do. They have to be able to have the confidence of the defense, command the people who are in front of them, have the vision, have everything that you want from a goalkeeper in order to play in the play style that you want in this new revamped empire. So, I mean, I retired. I can't play anymore. I wouldn't play for strikers. I'm sorry that I mean
you.
that
Have some standards, Tony. Come on.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's I can't imagine what the media blast would be on my upon my signing over there. It's be scathing.
We'd be announcing Chiva's elevation to producer and host of Soccer's Overtime.
But no, it's alarming. I have to say, I have to agree with that. It's interesting. I've never seen this. What can possibly happen? Just pick somebody off the streets? That's
well, I'm glad you asked, because I've got a thought and I've got an idea. It just so happens, if you go through the different rosters on the MASL website, again, Craig Childs isn't on our roster, so take everything with a grain of salt. Okay, take everything with a shaker of salt, but don't put it all in your food. You know, keep an eye on your sodium levels. There's a very, very, very accomplished goalkeeper who has sallied over to the West Coast once before, who is listed as inactive on his team's roster. And that is one William Vanzella. And given the way that Baltimore has been changing their roster and moving away from critical players such as Lucas Roque, could the strikers, who have said all along that they're trying to get younger and more dynamic, go get one of the oldest goalkeepers in the league and make him a fly-in player to fly in for, X number of games and be the goalkeeper of Empire? I'm not trying to manifest this. Certainly.
Ideas.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, if there's one thing that Empire could do that would materially change their fortunes for this year, that would, as Marlisha says, that would be a game changer. Okay. So, Tony, this is where I will now either make myself sound really smart or embarrass myself. I will not ask you to do this. I mean, you can if you want. You can throw out your predictions if you want. Feel free. Jump into the breach.
I agree with you.
Dive in head first if you want. But this is how I see the divisions shaking out right now based on the rosters, which have salt shakers attached to them and everything else. So let's start, of course, with our division. I see San Diego on top. I think the Sockers finished 5 games better than the next best record in the league last year in just a 24-game schedule. That's a level of dominance that is difficult to overcome. I think the team is better this year. Sockers number 1 and would be my pick to win the Shield. Chihuahua is an obvious number 2 in the West. And even without Berna, even without Torres, they've got depth. They've got all kinds of experience now. They've got the confidence of winning. They've got the championship pedigree. So Chihuahua is an easy pick for number 2. And I think of all the picks I'm going to make, there's 13 teams. There's 13 potential placements. I guarantee San Diego 1, Chihuahua 2. Like, those are the 2 things I would be the absolute most confident in.
Yeah, I'd snap that.
Top 4 teams in each division make the playoffs. I believe the other two teams that will make the playoffs out of the West are Texas and Tacoma. And I could see it in that order. Texas third, Tacoma fourth. If Chris Toth has a whale of a year and Tacoma gets a little bit more production out of some of their younger players, I could see it flip-flop. And I could see it Tacoma third and Texas fourth. I still give Chris Toth a ton of credit for being one of the best goalkeepers in the league. I think he kind of single-handedly saved Empire at certain points in the last 2 years when the defense was atrocious. And by the way, Empire lost Robert Palmer too. He went back to Kansas City. I mean, it's been an exodus out of Empire. So one way or another, I'll just say Texas third, Tacoma fourth. But I see those as being the playoff teams. And then probably, you know what, Paul Doherty, I love you. I'll say Empire fifth.
All right.
I'll give him that shot to be a team that gets better as the year goes on. Young legs, new system. Maybe they come together. Maybe they make a trade. Hey, if Empire made the trade that I danced around there, I might flip-flop them and one of Texas and Tacoma, because I think that player can push a team that far. So that would be kind of my one hedge, but I'll say Empire 5 and I'll put Dallas 6. What has Dallas done to really improve? I'd like to see Dallas improve. Dallas snuck their way into the playoffs 2 years ago. Last year, they were an absolute disaster once again. Could it possibly happen? Sure. Could Empire completely crater and be the worst team in the league? I mean, yeah, they could. They absolutely could. If they did acquire that particular player, they'd probably have to send someone east too. And there's not a lot of people left on the roster that aren't young, but that's how I see it. I see San Diego, Chihuahua, Texas, Tacoma as being the playoff teams. And I see Empire, Dallas on the outside looking in. Your mileage may vary. Any thoughts on that, Tony?
No, I definitely agree that 1-2 is definitely solid. I mean, Chihuahua has the depth. Their MASL 2 team is fantastic. So they have talent to really kind of make that number 2 push there. But Texas, they have some good talent as well. And overall, I think I have to agree with that. I mean, you said it, Craig. You're putting Empire as potential fringe playoff contention team.
If they change things. I mean, the only goalkeeper on their roster right now was their M2 kid, Brian Orozco, from last year. And he wasn't bad in M2. You saw him with Empire Jets. He was fine. But you're going to throw him in 6 games against us, games against Chihuahua. Like, if they can't win any of those games, they're already sitting at like 10, 11 losses. And then what are you going to do from there? Now you got to win all the rest of your games, essentially. So, tough going probably for Empire this year. Maybe Paul will surprise us. I still will say they'll probably beat us once. Like one massive revenge game that they'll make 15 videos about afterwards because we, pummel them 4 times in a row and then show up fat to Toyota Arena one day. Okay, to the East. Here's my bold, not so bold prediction. Number 1 in the East, Monterey Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Monterey Flash.
Yep.
And I believe the Monterey Flash will have the second best record in the league, and that the Monterey Flash will push the Sockers for the Shield. I think they will push the Sockers for the Shield enough that in the horrible, alternate universe that we are not going to live in, where the Sockers had, a lot of injuries or some type of, that if there was a team that could take the Shield over San Diego, I think it would be Monterey. In addition to Berna, in addition to Torres, in addition to all the kids that they already had last year, you add Ismael Rojo, who I still believe when he is left to his own devices, so to speak, and is featured on a team, I think he's going to be tremendous. And they added Pollo too. And I think Pollo is incredible glue for that club. I mean, you really just look at the whole roster for Monterrey, and it's tough, top to bottom. But why am I putting them first? Because the West has been so much better than the East the last couple 3 years. And we've said so many times, you could take any one of these 5 teams from the West and put them in the East, and they'd probably be the champion. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm saying the Flash would have been number 1 in the East if they could have played over there. So now they're there. So now I'm putting them number 1. Monterrey number 1.
Yeah, no, that team is filled with talent. Walter Ayoví, number 10, is an absolute pleasure to watch. It's going to be a team, and that team also has that fan base that's incredibly loyal and really pushes them through. It's a very hard place to play when visitors come over into Monterrey.
So that's definitely my hot take, because the more popular pick would be Milwaukee. And I think Milwaukee got better this year. I think Carvalho is going to be a lovely add to that team. I just, the top stars for the Milwaukee Wave for years have been Ian Bennett and Marcio Leite. And they're both now approaching 40. And it's just a matter of how long can you be great. I think the greatest days of the Wave are in the past. They need new, young, dynamic talent to not just be the aging warhorse of the East. And that's kind of where I see him this year. So I think the Wave are going to be really, really good, probably in the conference final. But I'll take Monterrey over Milwaukee. And if Monterrey has home field and they're playing down at Arena Borregos in a conference final, I really like Monterrey in that situation. So I'm going to go Milwaukee too. No diss to the Wave. They're definitely a top contender and could take the East. Third, I'll put Kansas City. I really like what's going on with the Comets. And I thought about putting another team in the third spot, but Kansas City has made some key additions in this offseason, including Chad Vandergriff, who has been a top league all league defender each of the last couple of years, came from Milwaukee, he was a top defender there. He's not a dynamic player like a Drew Ruggles. He's not a complete shutdown player like a Pino or a Cardenas, but he's going to really help their defense, because Kansas City's defense was pretty weak outside of goalkeeper Nicolau Neto. And guess who else they got? Robert Palmer is back in Kansas City. Ontario's number 1 defender, who has spent 5 years out here, is back in his hometown of Kansas City. And I think those two guys, plus Zach Reggett being there full-time and having the opportunity to become the full-time number 1 offensive option in KC. He came in mid-year last year. It's kind of a mix with him and with Rion Marquez and with Leo. I think now he's the undisputed number 1. Palmer helps the defense. Vandergriff helps the defense. Neto has a big year in net as a result. And I'll put KC third in my predictions. I'll put Utica fourth to be the last team to make the playoffs. The King's going to help. He's going to score goals. Him and Gordy could be an interesting team up. The question for Utica is defense. Straight up, the question is defense. Bo Yelovac has retired. I don't think they've got the best defenders in the league in Utica, but that team really came together, and I really like what Everton Moreira has done as a head coach. I think he really galvanized that club in the second half last year. So maybe it's a little bit of a biased tip to the King Taiyu, but I'm going to put Utica fourth, which means I'm leaving the Eastern Conference champions out and putting Baltimore fifth. In one iteration of my standings, I put Baltimore seventh. And it's because I just feel like it's a franchise going the other direction. They couldn't even find a home date for playoff games last year. They're going to play a game outdoors this year. Neto isn't active. Roque is gone. Max Ferdinand isn't on the active roster. And if Venzela leaves, to me, it's a house of cards that collapses behind him. Mike Zierhofer did a really good job as a backup goalkeeper last year, but I think it's a major difference between playing for a guy where the man is coming back next game or playing for a guy where there's no one but him. And so I'm curious. I could be dead wrong on this. I'm sure Gio is furious. I'm sure Brad is furious listening, but I'm going to put Baltimore 5th. And then I'm going to go St. Louis and Harrisburg. And they could finish 6-7. They could finish 7-6. I don't know. But I think those are the two teams. Harrisburg's gotten better. St. Louis has gotten a little bit better. But when I looked at the rosters, at the end, Tony, I couldn't justify putting either one of them above Baltimore, never mind any of the other teams in the division.
I want to apologize to everybody who just got the entire season spoiled by Craig by being absolutely mostly probably correct on these. And that's definitely the way that this league usually turns out. Is the most likely thing to happen usually happens. And, it's special when it doesn't. And in very various ways, right? That soccer savage game maybe wasn't supposed to happen that way, but it was a special moment for the league nonetheless. But I have to agree with that. And either way, these are going to be some very good games. There's going to be some really good competition, and that the playoff race on either divisions are going to be stellar, with some great teams who have really improved and have something to show. And I mean, again, we've seen these mid-table teams sometimes take it to the Soccers, and the Soccers aren't impervious at all times. So that's something that they will have to definitely go ahead and make sure they are vigilant about throughout the season, and not let up, because again, then you're going to get Empire beating you once, and they're going to gloat about it until the next renaissance of players comes in.
Better not be when we do a bus trip up there, not that game. Pick a different game. All right, so I got San Diego, Chihuahua, Texas, Tacoma in the West. I got Monterey, Milwaukee, KC, and Utica in the East. I probably got a San Diego Monterey final, which would be really a hell of a final. It'd be a hell of a final. Would I prefer Milwaukee? Yeah. Just, it's tough to go out of country for the championship. It's tough to go to Chihuahua and win a playoff game. It's tough to go to Monterey and win a playoff game. To me, that's the hardest thing you can do in this league. So, should be a ton of fun. What do you think? Leave us a note in the comments here on YouTube or on Twitch while you're liking. If you want to put in predictions are, that's tremendous. Maybe we'll go back. If I was completely right, I'll give myself a prize.
I like putting stuff on the line. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll have something prepared for you at the end of the season. If this does pan out exactly, it has to be exact.
Exactly. 13 for 13. It has to be a 13-team parlay. I have to nail all 13. If I miss one, I missed it all. I love it. All right, that's it for this episode of Soccer's Overtime. When we are back next week, Tony, it's match week, man. It's going to be match week. We're going to have an actual match to preview and prepare for and get excited as Toth and Pereira and Tacoma come to town. I want to say big ups to Brian Farber. I want to say thanks to everybody in our Soccer's front office for helping make the soccer season ticket member party and our media day possible. Always led by our glorious leader, Sean Bowers, our team general manager. Tony, where can everyone find you?
They can go ahead and find me on Twitter or X at _Tony Sanchez. It's simple. Tony Sanchez _ in the beginning. That's about it.
And you can follow me on Instagram at 619 Sports and Life. You can follow me on X at 619 Sports. I've given up calling it Twitter now. I mean, it's been months, so got to stay with the times. All right. For Tony Sanchez and Brian Farber, I'm Craig Elston, thanking you for making us part of your Tuesday evening, or if you're watching on YouTube and listening on the podcast, whenever you chose to take in our content, we say thanks. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the MASL action this weekend, and go Soccers!